Welcome to another episode of Mystery Garage. In today's episode, we get a ton of work done on the chassis here, and we're nearly ready to start throwing some parts at it. As you can see, I'm checking in from the future. Right behind me, you can see the interior is completely coated. We got the floor plans taken care of. We got the interior taken care of. We're ready to start throwing some panels in there almost. And the chassis is nearly ready to go with all the rust taken care of, all that sort of stuff behind us. We're almost at the point with, other than body work, we're ready to start throwing some parts on it. We need to make it a roller before we take it to the body shop anyways. So let me show you how I got all that done. Welcome back to Mystery Garage. Last week's episode, we got rid of all of the rust on the car, so finally we can say we have a completely rust-free chassis, and man, am I ever excited about that. But in today's episode, I want to carry on with moving this chassis ahead. I do want to start tackling the floor inside of the car, as well as we still need to finish off undercoating the rear wheel wells, as well as I need to repair some of the front where we welded through doing the base shave. So a couple of those things to tackle. Then really after that, all we have to do is start hanging the doors, the fenders, that sort of stuff, and getting ready for the paint preparation stages, which I may or may not do myself. We're gonna see where that goes. Then we can start looking at getting the car back down on its wheels by cleaning up and hanging the suspension, working on brakes and that sort of stuff. So in order to get that far, today we're gonna tackle the floors, undercoating the rears, and really taking care of what's left on the chassis to deal with before we can start throwing parts at it. Let's get to work. All right, so in today's episode, we're going to tackle these floor plans. Now they are rust-free, there's no issues there, but I want to make sure for the long term that this car is going to be fine. I'm not going to have to deal with any rust in the future. So there's some places where the paint's come off and it's started to get a little bit of surface rust and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do today is treat all that. So I'm going to do a full clean of the entire floor. We're going to obviously vacuum it, sweep it up, clean it up, wire wheel every part that has any paint chipping or any light surface rust. We're going to go ahead and POR portions of the floor where it's exposed. POR really doesn't like to stick to previously painted spots, so unless you're going to peel all the paint off, there's no need to POR the whole floor. We're going to POR any metal exposed areas, any areas that have slight surface rusting and that sort of stuff to make sure that doesn't go anywhere. After we go ahead and POR, we're going to use this exact same material to coat the POR. I really like this stuff. It's a super durable finish, very rock solid. You got to remember when your carpet's on top of any kind of like light super paint, that sort of stuff, it's going to slowly vibrate and shake and scuff. That scuffing is what's going to expose the metal, and then you're going to get rust under your carpet. Since you don't see the floor anymore when you have carpet in there, it doesn't really matter how you coat it or what it looks like. But one of the added benefits after you do this is this accepts a top paint coat should you ever want to color coat it. So it will be just as durable with paint on top of it. Granted, that paint may wear through, the color code may wear through, but you're going to have this underneath. I really like this material just because how durable it is. So it's what I'm going to use on the floor, and then down the road I do have the option to be able to just color code it when it comes to the paint stage if I really want to. But at least that will give me the satisfaction of knowing that this floor can more or less withstand anything. It's better than any trunk coating you'll find out there, at least in my opinion. I like it more than any trunk coating. It's really easy to apply. You can kind of add a little bit thicker than a trunk coating. It's just a really great all-around product. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. But first things first, got to clean this entire floor. Also going to hop in those rear wheel wells, give that a good clean, as well as give a clean up on these fronts where I've done the weld patching, so that when we paint over it with the undercoat, it all comes through perfectly. Okay, we've got lots of work ahead of us, so let's get to it. Alright, update time. I apologize, that was a little bit longer of a work scene than I would have liked, but there was a lot of work to do, so I thought it's kind of necessary in this circumstance. So let's take a look at what I've done. So here's where we are. You know, I went through and found every little piece of, first of all, I cleaned it all up, exposed any bits of metal that I could, and then went through and POR'd everything that was exposed. Anywhere that there was, you know, a little bit of metal that was showing through the paint or what have you. You can see this area here is pretty heavy in the black. That's just because that was where the exhaust had heated the paint and the paint had peeled inside. You kind of use this to reverse engineer rust on these cars. Figure out where the rust is in the floor pan edges, in the back, in the wheel tub, along the back edge. Anywhere that you know, people might think this is overkill. I've undercoated the underside. The underside is fully cleaned and everything. Why bother inside? Well, for me, it's, you know, for the half can it was, or a little bit less than a half can of POR, this is just added insurance for me. If I'm going through all the effort of doing all this work to the car, why not throw down a little bit of POR paint just to prevent rust in the future? Really, what does it hurt? So, you know, what you do is you look at all the rust areas on these cars and figure out, hey, if I can get there before the rust does, maybe I can, you know, be ahead of it and never have a rust issue. So again, just re-engineering where you see rust in the tub back here, along the floor pan edges, that kind of thing, in where the seat rails are, all that sort of stuff. You don't need to go nuts with it, but every little bit helps to the added insurance. I also did inside the wheel well here. Again, anywhere that metal was exposed. You know, it does get a little bit sloppy in this stage, but once I let this dry, because I'm going to let this dry overnight tonight, and then tomorrow we'll come back and do the finishing coat in the, you know, the rock guard kind of stuff that I use. It'll really start to show the overall finished condition will look really, really good, and I promise you that much. But for now, it looks kind of, you know, hit or miss. But again, it's just the added insurance underneath this. I could have just went and rock guarded the whole thing without bothering with this step, but I thought for the cost of, you know, a third of a can, really, how does it hurt? All right, so we'll let this dry tonight, and we'll check back in tomorrow. All right, it's a couple days later. PR is all dry, so now I'm going to start masking everything off. This is gonna be a bit of a process, but I gotta do it for paint. All right, we are all taped off. Now I realize this might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I promise you when this is all sprayed and done, you will see what I mean and how much better this will look. The great part about this serves two purposes. One, it kind of acts as a little bit of a sound ender so the metal doesn't vibrate or that sort of thing. Also, it acts as a conditioner for the floor and the interior. And if I don't want to, I don't have to spray the interior. I can color it afterwards if I wanted to, but if I don't want to, I'm gonna be obviously painting the jambs and everything, but the interior would be already taken care of underneath. So let's get this done, and I'll show you when we're all finished. right, so I've let it dry for the night and came back, did some touch-ups. But wow, does that ever look good. So you're starting to see what I'm going for. Cleaning up that interior, getting it all ready. Now, most of this stuff you're not gonna see it because there's interior panels that go over top of 90% of this stuff. Especially everything basically back to the wheel tub. There's some covers that go over each side of the wheel wells. So a lot of this stuff will get covered up, but overall it is looking fantastic. Very happy with it. This is a huge step in the right direction for this car because now we're basically ready to start throwing some parts back at it almost. Thought we'd have another quick look at it from the other side. But with all the masking removed, you can see what a difference that makes and how good that actually looks. Pretty excited. We've made a lot of progress here. So that about does it for today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you don't currently subscribe to this channel, I highly recommend that you do. Lots of Mk1 content coming out of this channel each and every week. So again, we'll get back on this next Wednesday. We'll get back to work on doing some more things on this car, whether that's back into the engine build, because I do believe the head is ready. So lots of cool things happening here. So be sure to check back. Otherwise, we'll see you guys Sunday. Take care.